Hi, my name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the founder and CEO of a consulting company called Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent ERP consulting firm. And one of the challenges that we see oftentimes with ERP projects, whether it be SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics 365, or whatever the situation may be, is that these companies oftentimes aren't ready to implement whatever software it is that they're implementing. And what I mean by that is they haven't figured out what their operational model is going to look like going forward. They haven't designed the organization to support that new implementation, and they just haven't figured out also how they're going to manage the change and also what kind of project governance is going to support that initiative going forward with such a large transformation that they're about to go through. So what ends up happening is companies will dive right into a digital transformation. They'll go out and pick the software. They'll start implementing it. They'll bring on a system integrator with their army of consultants to come on site and start building and configuring stuff, but they don't know what that stuff is. They're not ready to make some of those decisions. And so what ends up happening is the meter is running. It gets really expensive. You're spending way too much time and money on some of these system integrators. And most importantly, you don't have a clear direction for where the project is headed. So a case study I wanted to share is with a company that is trying to avoid that exact same type of thing. And this is a client of ours that we just started working with. It's an Australian transportation company that knows that they want to go forward with the digital transformation, but they don't know what that means, and they're not ready for it. So they've hired us to come in and help figure out how we can get them ready. How can we be ready for that transformation and that overall enterprise digital strategy? So just a little bit about this company. Like I mentioned, it's an Australian-based transportation company, very heavy fixed assets, heavily regulated. Was recently privatized, but there's still a great deal of Australian regulation that dictates how they run the company. And more operationally, they have over 100 different systems too, by the way, siloed systems, separate systems for their GL, their fixed assets, property management, things to manage their investment properties, all different types of systems that they're trying to patch together into a cohesive solution, which is challenging. And they have a history of kind of forcing changes on their employees. So when there's a need for a new system, oftentimes it's finance. We're interacting with the finance group for the most part at this client. They will typically, admittedly, kind of force the adoption with employees and not really involve them a whole lot, and not really have a robust organizational change strategy to manage that. And so there's a certain amount of maturity that they're lacking, that they're trying to develop in advance of going through a digital transformation. For example, with project governance, organizational change, business process management, those are three areas that they don't have a lot of maturity, and they're really looking for us to help them figure out how can we build the capabilities and the maturity that we need to be able to get ready for this sort of transformation that they're about to go through. So we have just met with them over the last few days, and the solution that we've developed here and put forward for them is to, first of all, to help define the overall enterprise digital strategy and readiness for that digital strategy. So that's kind of the overarching theme that of the recommendation that we made. And within that, there's 5 different work streams or 5 different sorts of activities that we're focused on over the next several months as we help them prepare for their digital transformation. The first one, and probably most important, is the executive alignment. So ensuring that there's a clear project vision for where that project is headed, making sure they're all on the same page in terms of whether this is a finance project, or is it an IT project, or is it a broader enterprise-wide project. And that's a decision that hasn't been clearly made yet, and is something that they need to get alignment on internally, starting at the executive level all the way down through the organization. The second piece of what we're recommending is the organizational readiness. So how can we assess the culture of the organization and identify those pockets of resistance that will ultimately potentially get in the way of a successful transformation? And more importantly, more prescriptively, how can we develop an organizational change strategy and plan that addresses those needs and allows them to have a good, solid foundation to start from on the people side of the equation? And then the third thing that we're helping them through is the whole business process management component of this. So really helping them understand how their current state business processes need to evolve into a future state of improved processes, and how that in turn translates into a set of business requirements that enables us to consider which potential software or softwares that might be best fits for the organization. And that allows us too to figure out what the cost benefit business case is. If once we know what type of system they're looking for that's going to be the best fit, we can then start to look at, what's the cost benefit, so that the executive team can make an informed decision before making that decision to move forward with the broader project. And then the fourth component that we're looking at with them is IT readiness. So really assessing their physical infrastructure, their current enterprise architecture, but also their organizational infrastructure, their skill sets, the competencies they have within the IT group, the competencies they're going to need going forward to support a digital transformation, and really figuring out how are we going to help fill those gaps in terms of either creating new roles or training people to build those competencies within their IT group. And then finally, the fifth area that we're helping them with at the moment as it relates to this is the overall project governance. So making sure that they have a clear project charter, they know how decisions are going to be made, they know what the project vision and criteria for success are going to be. Those are some of the things that go into that whole project management organization or project governance aspect of the overall enterprise and digital readiness component. So those are just some things that hopefully help paint a picture of how organizations that are about to move forward with the digital transformation, or maybe they're not sure if they should be, or they're not sure how they should move forward. Those are some ways that you can apply to your organization to figure out, how can we make sure we're ready to move forward? We don't necessarily need to jump right into going out and calling vendors and getting demos and ultimately making a decision to move forward with the product before we're even ready to have a solid foundation in place. So really taking the time to create that foundation, create that readiness, and then ultimately using that as a way to fast track an evaluation of software and ultimately get to an implementation that's going to be more of a true transformation rather than just a software implementation. The key way to do that is to have this sort of readiness aspect or enterprise or digital readiness phase of a project. So hopefully this is helpful. I don't know, in this particular case study, I have no idea where this client will land in terms of which software they'll select or how they'll end up going through the transformation or how successful they'll be. But I can certainly share more as we go forward. But hopefully this helps paint a picture of some ways you can be thinking about to make your digital transformation more ready for change. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you all have a great day. Thanks very much.